Hi, welcome back to the channel. I'm Michelle, and today I'm going to be doing a celiac disease update. So if you're new here, my youngest daughter has celiac disease. She was diagnosed at 3.5. And I talk a lot about celiac disease on my channel because I found, especially having a child at such a young age with celiac disease, there aren't a lot of resources or people even talking about what it's like to have a toddler with celiac disease and how you navigate that. So a big part of my channel is our journey through celiac disease, and my daughter does have 6-month checkups with her GI specialist, her pediatric GI specialist, and that's when I usually tend to do these updates just for if you're a parent or someone you know out there has celiac disease, just for general information to learn more about celiac disease. So in my last update on her celiac disease and how she's doing, her previous appointment, she hadn't gained any weight from the previous 6 months, and that was something that concerned the doctor, but he said, let's wait and see at the next appointment. If she doesn't gain anything, then we know something else is going on. We need to do further testing. Well, luckily at this appointment, she had gained 2 pounds from her previous appointment, and she grew in height as well. So growth was not an issue. He did his normal check with her, discussions and things like that. And everything went really well. She's growing well. She's on the smaller side percentile wise, but all of my kids have been on the smaller side percentile wise. I think there should be some adjustments because when you're talking about a child that doesn't pretty much eat one of the main food groups, their size is going to be a little different. Height-wise, she's great. Weight, she's always going to be on the smaller size, just because her diet is so different than what a typical 6-year-old would be. So she's good on all those fronts. One thing that I wanted to talk about that we've had issues with, and this could be celiac disease related, it could be completely different, but something I want people to be aware of. So she has struggled with abscesses since about 3. So she'll get these little kind of almost like a pimple on her body, and it will slowly just get bigger. And it's normal for our skin to sometimes get those things, and usually our body will break it down and it will go down, things like that. Her body doesn't do that. It kind of blows up and eventually becomes infected and becomes a full-on abscess. And she has been dealing with this since before her celiac disease diagnosis. She was diagnosed at 3.5, and she had her first abscess at 3. So this is something that she's been dealing with almost on a yearly basis. This past year, she had one in November, and then she just had one in the beginning of February. So it's increasing. It seems like it's increasing, the amount of time she has it, and it's something I've talked to the pediatrician and both her GI doctor about, and of course the pediatrician has treated her numerous times. So 3, 4, 5, 6, so 4 times prior for this issue. And when she was 3, it got to the point where antibiotics and the topical and the oral antibiotics weren't doing anything. It was continuing, the infection wasn't going away. So they actually had to go in and surgically drain the abscess when she was 3. And she had to be fully sedated for that. And you can imagine it was very stressful for everybody. But since then, she continues to get these abscesses, and we've tried preventative things. You know, she doesn't wear tight clothing, everything's organic cotton, she bathes regularly. Anytime she's, does gymnastics or exerts herself and sweats a lot, she bathes. So it's not necessarily that, and we've had some issues, and one of the reasons I want to talk about this is even after a diagnosis, you still are often pushing for answers or pushing doctors. So her pediatrician has pretty much just come to the point that she says that, sometimes some kids just deal with this, that it's not unusual. And when I express my concerns about her being on antibiotics once a year, she says, well, there's kids that have ear infections that are constantly on antibiotics, that, it's not too concerning. And for us personally, it's concerning because someone with celiac disease, gut health is extremely important. Every time she encounters gluten or is glutened, that wreaks havoc on her intestines. Like, there's damage done there, there's inflammation. So keeping her gut healthy is extremely important, especially for someone who is dealing with a autoimmune condition like celiac disease that greatly affects, your digestive system. So the last appointment we had with her pediatrician, this is the suggestion they gave me because I asked, what can we do preventative-wise to help her? And they said diluted bleach baths. I'm not even joking on this. They even had a pamphlet that they gave me that instructs you on how to give your child a diluted bleach bath. And the reasoning behind that is that it will kill everything off their skin. And again, I'm not a medical professional, but I would assume that if you're killing everything off their skin, that's probably not good, because there are good bacteria and things that are on our skin that we need, not to mention soaking in bleach just seems like a horrible idea to me. So after that frustration, we have decided to change doctors, obviously, and because she recently had her GI appointment, her pediatric GI appointment, we brought it up to that doctor, and he's aware of the abscess problems she's had in the past, and we're wondering if this is something to do with her more autoimmune condition part of celiac disease, if this is something because he works with children who have celiac disease, which it's difficult to find doctors who are even aware, let alone have patients with it, but because this is his specialty, he does. And he has had issues with patients having skin issues, but it's more like a hives type reaction or a dermatitis reaction. That's not what she's having. It's something below the skin surface, and her body isn't fighting off whatever is going on during these little bumps. So he suggested that we actually, when we switch to the new primary for her, to get a referral to an immune specialist. So he thinks it, probably has to do with another autoimmune condition. When you have one, you have increased risk of having more. And, I have an autoimmune condition. I have hypothyroidism. My husband has diabetes. So rolling the genetic dice, she did not do well with, because she's, with family history and the fact that she already has celiac disease, she's at high risk for another autoimmune condition. But we're talking the last, 2-something years we've been dealing with this. And the only suggestion I could get from a medical professional is put her in a bleach bath, which is really frustrating, because it's not just an inconvenience to my daughter. So she gets these almost quarter size, sores on her, and they're painful and they're uncomfortable, and depending when they're located, walking or laying down can be uncomfortable. Not to mention, pretty much the only treatment for these is that they have to drain naturally. So they come to a head, and whatever is inside of them comes out, and that can be really difficult for my daughter, because I think it's difficult for anyone, but she definitely goes to the freak out right away phase. Like, that's just how her brain works. She sees something or something happen, it's the fight or flight thing where it's, oh my god. So it's difficult for her to, because it drains over days, sometimes 3-4 days, which can limit, depending on where it is, the activities she can do. For example, once this happened during gymnastics, she had on her side, she couldn't go to gymnastics for a week because it was actively draining, and you can't be rolling around mats with that. So it's not just that it's inconvenient or painful, but it's impacting areas of her life, which I assume will only get worse as she gets older. But the doctors are unwilling to look for a cause for this. And I'm not one of those, test my child for everything or push for that. But if this is a reoccurring issue, then obviously something is going on besides just skin. And if it is a skin issue, I find it hard to believe there's not something we can do that will make this easier for her. So that is kind of where we're at now. Her celiac disease is very well managed. She's gaining weight, she's growing. But on the other side of this, we may be potentially dealing with some other form of an autoimmune condition. So I will keep you updated as always, but this is just a reminder that once you get that diagnosis, it's not just easy. There's sometimes multiple diagnoses after that. It's still pushing doctors. Many doctors who are just not educated in your child's condition is really difficult. We live in a more rural area, and you're not going to get doctors who see a lot of patients with certain disorders or diseases. So it's frustrating. It's frustrating all over again. It's like, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But I'm hopeful that with this new doctor we see and a referral, that we'll get some answers to what's going on with her. Because again, it's not a pleasant experience for her, and it's something I think we can do, or at least be knowledgeable. I'm very in the mindset, if you know more, you're prepared and you can make better choices. So even if there's nothing we can do, we will know what's going on, and that's enough. So if you have any questions, leave them down below. If not, thank you for watching.